So this is St Andrews in Fife. It's on a lot of visitors' wish lists. For sure, it's a unique Scottish town, home of golf, oldest university in Scotland, plus it has an ecclesiastical history that features the time-worn remnant of its once massive cathedral. Don't I just sound like a tourist brochure? It's got lots of traffic. It's got golf widows, noisy braying students, turn time, mini coaches waiting for guests, lots of places to eat and drink. It's busy, bustling, crowded, jostling. This sequence shows it at its quietest. A sunny morning, midweek in May. So we have a suggestion. A little place that's the real deal. 17 minutes by car from St Andrews, and it's pretty as well. A reminder of Scotland of old, when many East Coast communities had borough status and traded with countries across the North Sea. So we'll take you back in time to a well-run Scottish borough of the Middle Ages. This is Crail, the coastal community, in the sunshine, just a few minutes from that golfing mecca up the road. Here are the signs of old Scotland, an independent trading nation with links to Europe. Dutch influence in the architecture, red pantile roofs, crow-stepped gables, a Tollbooth, a market cross, and, well, we'll explain what all of these are in a moment. But first, here's a flavour of the sheer picturesque ambience of the place. First of all, it's peaceful. It's an oldly worldy sort of place. It's relaxed. It's got most things you'd need for a nice day out. You might find its wee local museum open. It's got a friendly hotel with all-day dining and one or two other places to eat. Quick glimpse of the Lothian coast across the water there, across the Firth of Forth. And then it's round to the harbour. A real focal point. Inevitably folk in Crail find themselves by way of picturesque little streets down to the harbour. It's best reached on foot. In fact, don't bring a car down here at all. Piles of creels suggest there is still some small-scale fishing here for crabs and lobsters, but the North Sea trading vessels of old, of the local merchants that would have been here in the Middle Ages, are, of course, long gone. Meanwhile, down by the shore, you can appreciate, too, that this part of Scotland has a sun-catching, south-facing coastline. It's not a common orientation in this northern nation. By now, of course, you must have noticed the distinctive style of the older houses of Crail. Those red pantiles, some of them at least, originally would have come in from the Low Countries as ballast of the trading vessels. Imagine, down at this tiny picturesque harbour, for centuries the small boats sailed out across the North Sea and dealt in wool, coal and wine, spices, herring, iron ore and other cargoes, all of which brought profit to the merchants of the borough. And there's that word borough again. What's a borough, you might ask? Well, that's quite easy. It's a town that in Scotland of old had certain privileges. Most importantly, it could trade, make money through its markets and manufacturing, by which duties and taxes would be paid to the royal coffers, somewhat inevitably. And there is, of course, the very essence, the very symbol of the old borough. The Tollbooth, or the townhouse, seen here, is a symbol of the old borough. This was the main municipal building for council meetings in the olden days, and it had courts and prison cells below the same roof. Rubble-built lower part here is 16th century, while the upper part of the tower was added around 1776. The pagoda-style bell tower has a bell cast in Rotterdam in the 16th century. Another reminder of the links with Europe. And then on top of the tower is a weathercock in the shape of a fish, and that refers to the smoked haddock formerly known as a Crail capon. And as a capon is a chicken, it might just be an ironic comment that the local folks couldn't afford chicken and had to make do with fish. And then there's the nearby Market Cross. The Market Cross seen here, it's the very icon of the old borough and a focal point for public events such as proclamations, celebrations and hangings. They knew how to enjoy themselves back then. And of course, markets too. Crail formerly had a huge market held here. It was a Sunday one as well, and that didn't please the church one little bit. Well, that's covered most of the historic aspects of Crail. Great ambience, really good place for a day visit. But it has got one other little quirky feature that you won't see in many other Scottish places. Are you ready for this? Giant centipede tracks from the Carboniferous era. Thought you'd be impressed. And if you look, you can see that these tracks now disappearing off to the left of the screen are really quite accessible from the beach at Crail. Unless, of course, you're wearing silly shoes. It's worth a wee excursion. There's quite a few rocks with those tracks on it, and there's one or two other fossil remains too, like a wooden tree.
Well, I think we should stop Gilbert here. He meant, of course, to say a fossil tree. And now we'll briefly return to St Andrews where we started.